Good morning. Sorry to interrupt plenty of conversation I can hear, and also Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson just now. So welcome warmly to you all, and what a moment really. It feels like a real moment. We're holding the first in-person FEA annual summit since 2019. And for some of us, this might be the first time back in a big in-person event like this in 3 years. Now, it's fantastic to have you all here. It's our biggest summit ever, and I think it's a testament to the care and the work and the sheer determination of all of you here in the various different spheres of your work. It's one of the single largest gatherings of cross-sector leaders working collectively to make education fair. And following the pandemic, I think now is the time to share ideas, to gather our energy and focus our collective power on the work before us. And that's to ensure that every child in England has access to a great education. Now, many of us have been doing this work for a long time, and will know that we are in especially challenging times at the moment. This year marks a decade since sector stakeholders collaborated to create the impact goals, a way for society to measure progress, and that progress in closing the disadvantage gap in education. Fair Education Alliance members have devoted their attention to the elimination of that gap for many years now, and our collective work has led to pockets of incredible progress for some young people in different parts of the country. But we see from our 2022 report card that at system level, the disadvantage gap in some areas has remained stubborn. And following the recent COVID-19 crisis, poorer families, and for those in particular in those situations, the gap is widening again. The disadvantage gaps at primary and GCSE now stand at their highest points since 2012. Now, the root causes of this stretch far beyond the school gates, and I know this better than many. And that's because of the work that I've done in schools over my 30-year career so far. We currently have the lowest real-term funding in schools since 2010, and despite the welcome and appreciated additional funding announced in last week's autumn statement, funding is not keeping pace with inflation. More families are struggling, and I see this every day at the school gate. We're seeing poverty rising due to the cost of living crisis, with the number of families in persistent poverty and deep poverty also rising. So we need a strategic, collective response to child poverty if we are to make progress on eradicating the disadvantage gap. Now, in our report card, and there are copies of this on the tables in front of you, but also online, it's readily available. We argue in the report card for structural change within our system to acknowledge the different starting points, the different contexts that students come from, and the strengths of children and young people in our schools. Yes, we must close the attainment gap, but we must also define a pupil's success more holistically than attainment. This might mean revisiting the way our system values children's achievements. For example, we need to bring parity of resource, attention and esteem to technical and vocational routes and erode the binary choice we are currently giving to pupils between the preferenced academic routes and all others. This might mean properly resourcing a gold standard in technical, skills-based, work-related education to rival that of traditional A-level programmes. And I've been arguing for this since I first studied my master's in 2006, and the Deering report of 1996 was arguing many years before that about a portfolio credit-based system which allows children to mix and match their qualifications to suit their preferred work destination. Our report card urges us to ensure that every child has a route to meaningful employment after GCSE, and surely this is necessary to make the most of our young people's potential for the benefit of our economy, our society, and those young people themselves. We also need to measure and value more than academic attainment, which is why the report card also calls for comprehensive national data on the well-being of young people, so we can have a more nuanced and accurate picture of their needs and how well we're meeting them. We also need to consider whether our current exam system is fit for purpose, and whether we can be ambitious about the standard we believe every student can and should reach, without limiting the number who can achieve this standard. It seems to me unfair that our system sets up a third of pupils to fail each year, regardless of how well they do in relation to a standard, because of norm referencing. And so now is our chance to reimagine and put new systems in place. For example, instituting a GCSE accreditation system that recognises a standard of achievement, no matter how many children reach that benchmark. Because surely, if you work hard enough and you reach that standard, it's not fair if then it's not allocated to you just because there's a rationality of numbers behind that award. There is a significant number for whom in the system things are just not working, and it's a more nuanced picture than disadvantage. There are other aspects too. We need to support those who stand to benefit from the education system and to lead on the change that they need. And there are many, of course, who sit just above the poverty line and not calculated in the disadvantage figure. And so we need to think about those families too. We need to back communities to level up over the long term and to see that as a collective action project. And it also means truly valuing experiences and perspectives of young people and ceding power to them. This is just some of where our collective voice can make a difference. And in this room today, I see you stakeholders, all of you together, working hard in your respective spheres to make a difference day in and day out. And the delivery organisations, businesses and philanthropists, researchers and schools that also work alongside you. There is so much power in our collective voice and action. And I'm also delighted to welcome this morning early stage entrepreneurs to the summit. And I'm excited to see the support that your bold ideas can transform in terms of the needs of students for our next generation through our Fair Education Awards. And we have people in the room that have won those awards in the past, in those early days of the impact goals, Right to Succeed as one of them, that are now making really significant differences in place-based change. I'm also particularly interested to see how we get to the areas of greatest need together. FEA members have directly worked with 2.5 million young people on their programmes, and we must think strategically to work with the young people who need it most. You are all here because you care deeply about every child having a right to great education, and today we will learn from each other, inspire each other, and leave even more motivated to push things forward together. And that motivation is key. In my time leading Mulberry School for Girls and then the Mulberry Schools Trust, we have seen pupils arrive at school with every card in the deck stacked against them. However, through multifaceted cross-sector support, I have seen pupils in the most challenging of circumstances succeed time and time again. And we owe it to children and young people to be equally as relentless as them. Giving up cannot be an option. So today, let's not give up, let's double down and find ways forward together. You are all engaged, in my opinion, in one of the most important parts of work in our society and in our school system that I can think of. And my experience of seeing that work make such a difference to young people's lives means that's why I stand here today in front of you and why I've spent my life, my career-long work in this space. So I'm going to introduce to you the most amazing Oghale in a moment. But before I do so, I'd like to say thank you to Bloomberg, who have been such a generous support and host of this summit. And to make this a reality in this space, at this time, at this moment following pandemic, we are extremely grateful. I'd also like to thank the FEA team and the trustees who are here today. And most of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this really vital work. And I thank you in advance for everything that you are going to do over the next years to make such a difference to disadvantaged young people in our schools. Thank you. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce to you the most amazing and wonderful Oghale. She needs no introduction.
I'd firstly just like to say thank you so much, Vanessa. I definitely loved to hear from you. Thank you for the introduction. But I'd just like to say a little bit about myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Oghale, and I am a 19-year-old. I am a member of the Youth Steering Group at the Fair Education Alliance, and outside of that, I am a university student at the University of Oxford, studying psychology and philosophy. And I wanted to speak to you about how fair education has been critical for me and my journey, and why I believe we all need to stick together to make sure that we are committed to fair education and reducing educational inequality. So fair education has given me the kind of means to access higher education. In other words, I don't believe I would have had the opportunity to access. In particular, I am a member of a single-parent household, someone of low income, and a person of colour. So it's safe to say that the cards were stacked against me. And for me, I saw Oxford, or Oxbridge in general, or higher education and university as my ticket out of poverty. And I truly believe that there were many factors that made a difference in my journey. So for example, I just wanted to shout out my school, Art Bolingbroke Academy, who I believe you'll be hearing a performance from at the end of the night. And I would just like to say that they have offered me so much support. So for example, they signed me up to Project Oxbridge, which allowed me to get a mentor that basically taught me more about the Oxbridge application process. We were also part of the Elephant Group, where we had lots of practice, lots of interview stuff and preparation. I also would like to shout out many of the charities in the third sector that helped me to get to where I am today. So for example, Causeway Education, Universify, who I did the summer school for, and I now can proudly say that I volunteer for to help young people get into the minds of university and higher education, and summer schools at the Sutton Trust, for example. But I think it's most important for me to highlight what I think was a really big factor in my success, which was my own motivation. So all those charities that I named, many of them I didn't find through my school. Instead, I went out of my own way to go and find these different charities because I saw them as ways to help me get to my goal, which was to ultimately get to Oxbridge. And although I am a success story, someone from low income, single parent household, etc., I do want to say and make it clear that I do not believe that the education system right now is a one-size-fits-all approach. So for example, I have a brother and a sister, and they both didn't see A-levels as their way to go. Instead, they took apprenticeships and BTECs and whatnot. And therefore, I wanted to reiterate that although my story was my story, it's not going to be the story for all of us and for every young person, and we need to keep that in mind. Furthermore, motivation on its own gets you nowhere. For me, I was a motivated individual, but that's not how I got to where I am right now. It's motivation plus access plus opportunity, and we need to ensure that we're allowing all young people to access that opportunity that maybe they wouldn't have gotten based on their circumstances or their socioeconomic background. Furthermore, the education system, I'd like to say, is not really designed for neurodiverse individuals. So myself, I am dyspraxic, and I was diagnosed with dyspraxia in my first year of university, and that is a neurodevelopmental disorder which affects motor coordination. And for me, I'd like to say that growing up in a system that favours neurotypical individuals, it hasn't actually been the easiest ride, education, and especially to where I am right now in my second year of university at Oxford. And overall, I just wanted to emphasise that our education system is in need of much reform. It needs to ensure that people who do not fit that standard or that stereotype, be it whether because they are a person of colour or they come from a low income or they have a disability or even all of those, I believe that they should be catered for in our education system because they deserve it. All young people deserve it. I'd just like to say that I believe that fair education is vital, mainly because I feel like the world could be missing out on so much talent that young people have to offer if we aren't giving them the opportunity to reach the places they need to reach. So for example, at the University of Oxford, you may have heard that the university designs things like vaccines. And I think in my head, well, if there are young people who are talented but don't have the opportunity to reach these places, we could be missing out on the next Einstein or the person who makes the cure for cancer, and we won't even know it. Furthermore, I care about justice. And for me, it's not fair that these young people like me, have had their path chosen for them by factors that they had no say in. So for example, before I was born, it was already decided for me that I came from a low-income background or that I was a person of color. And it's not fair that these circumstances choose or dictate where I go in life after that. Overall, I believe it's all of our duties to work together to ensure that education becomes fairer, so we can ensure that young people are at the forefront of those conversations and make sure we're making a better world for all of them, and a fairer education system to ensure that all of us can work together. Thank you.
Well, how am I supposed to follow that? That was incredible. And this is incredible as well. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you all today. I'm Caroline Rowley, and I oversee Bloomberg's corporate philanthropy work in the UK. And it's very special to welcome you to the iconic Battersea Arts Centre. This remarkable space is a hub for creativity and community, and it therefore feels fitting for us all to be convening here today. We've been a proud supporter of the Battersea Arts Centre since 2007, and we're actually really excited to be bringing a group of school children here from our network in a few weeks' time to watch a special performance of Little Red Robin Hood, which is wonderful. But as wonderful as our surroundings are, we know that the reason that we're gathered here today. The FEA's report card laid out starkly last week how factors including the pandemic and the cost of living crisis are continuing to exacerbate the attainment gap across the UK. Many of us are seeing this clearly in our day-to-day lives and interactions with young people. We also know that the attainment gap between young people often widens later in life, meaning more inequality across our society, and at the individual level, so much potential left unrealised. Mike Bloomberg believes that every student deserves the chance to get a high-quality education no matter where they live or how much they earn or their family earns. High-quality, inclusive education helps to strengthen our communities and makes the places where we live and work more vibrant and prosperous. But it's also about the wraparound support of a whole community that can help to make a difference, from helping families to put food on the table to providing after-school clubs and after-learning classes. We are incredibly proud to support the Fair Education Alliance in their mission, together with so many other fantastic organisations, and it is lovely to see so many familiar faces today after so long not bringing everyone together. But I'm also really looking forward to making new connections throughout the day. Both our employees at Bloomberg and I really value the opportunity to work alongside you enormously. Through our work together on initiatives such as the Fair Education Innovation Awards, we've seen that so many in the education sector have incredible vision for addressing inequality and the courage and the drive to match. I can really sense the feeling of determination and hope in the room this morning and look forward to contributing to the collective action projects that may emerge after today. So it's now my absolute pleasure to hand over to an incredible colleague and friend, Gina Cicerone. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. This is surreal. Yesterday I had a cry when I showed up because we had a whole busload that was putting this all together. And I hope you feel as privileged as I do to be here today and to be taken care of as we emerge from our Zoom meetings to in-person. So I'm Gina, and on behalf of my co-CEO, Sam, the Fair Education Alliance Secretariat, and our trustees, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you here. And I can't stress enough, to be with you in person, you're going to get lots of hugs today. So I was born in the USA, and today is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And I honestly cannot think of a better way to celebrate than to be here with you all and to plan how we're collectively going to make education fair for every child and young person. So, as is tradition on Thanksgiving, I'm going to give a few thanks for things in my life, specifically for the summit. As is also tradition, I tend to cry when doing this around the table, so just be warned. So first, I want to say a massive thank you to the FEA team. You have truly gone above and beyond to make today a success, and I'm so proud of you. We are all so grateful to be hosting at this spectacular venue. Y'all, you've only seen one part of it. We have the luxury of being able to take over so much space in this, and it's not just because of how beautiful a venue it is, but it's because of its ethos. You can see that the motto, not for me, not for you, but for us, is of Battersea Arts Centre. And this rings true for today and why we're here. So thank you so much for making this possible, Battersea Arts Centre. It's an absolute pleasure to partner with you on this. And finally, I want to say my thanks to our business, trust, and foundation members. It is your support that enables us to do our work, and we couldn't do it without you. And specifically to Bloomberg for your generosity making this possible, not only in the resources, but in the staffing and in the volunteers. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So it was exactly 5 years ago that I was discharged from hospital after being seriously ill. And there were many phenomenal people from the NHS and beyond who supported me in my recovery and to whom I'm so grateful. But I want to highlight one in particular, a medical student named Dost. Dost asked me where I worked, and I said, teach first. And Dost got really excited. He told me that he'd taken part in a university access program and asked me if I knew Carl. I said I knew Carl Edwards at Teach First, and that's when Dost lit up. He pulled up a picture of Carl on his phone and told me that Carl Edwards had been his mentor on the program, and that without Carl and without the program, he would not have pursued university, nonetheless pursued medicine, and how happy he was that he had. Carl's actually here with us today, probably trying to be invisible. And I hope that he's incredibly proud of the work that he has done and the impact that he's had on Dost. And what I find so exciting is that as a result of all of your work, there are millions more stories like Dost, where a young person's life has been transformed by the people and programs of our members. As you know, the reason that the FEA exists is to narrow the gap in education outcomes and, frankly, to eliminate it between young people from poorer backgrounds and their wealthier peers. And although the national picture that we've talked about indicates that the gap is at its widest since we set the impact goals nearly a decade ago, the work that you're doing is nevertheless transforming lives. And in fact, it's transforming 2.5 million lives of children and young people each year. So the final thing that I want to express my gratitude for is all of you, for your dedication to our shared vision, for your endless energy to persist despite the challenging circumstances, and for your spirit of collaboration to make education fair. So before I continue, we'd like to invite you to meet each other. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to stand up, and I'm going to ask you to go up to somebody that you do not know. I'm going to put a question on the board, and I would like you to discuss that by sharing for 1 minute your answer and hearing their answer for 1 minute as well. We're going to do a couple of rounds of this to get you making the most of the in-person networking, and it will be guided. It's going to be quite rapid fire, so make sure you stand up, meet somebody new, and answer the prompt. So I'll say the prompt, and then I'll invite you to stand up. First prompt. I'll say the prompt, and then I'll ask you to stand up. 1 moment. Oh, this is great. Perfect. I love the networking already. So, first prompt. What is one thing that you're grateful for? What's one thing you're grateful for? Go ahead. In your education journey, who was or is someone who you felt very supported by? So 1 minute to share, 1 minute to listen. Go ahead. Somebody new. The next question is taking us back 10 years. Thank you so much. Taking us back 10 years. So the morning is about looking back. This afternoon we'll look forward. As we look back to when the impact goals were set 10 years ago, what we want you to discuss now is, looking back 10 years ago, where were you and how have things changed for you? So last person, find somebody new, eye them up, let's go. I love the buzz. I saw a few people like, oh yeah, pointing, like we're gonna have to catch up later. So that's the whole purpose. That was one exercise to show you the power of everyone in this room today, and please make sure that you are connecting as much as possible to build those relationships that will have an impact, of course, today, but lead to collaboration well beyond. So, now that you've had the chance to meet each other, I'm going to share a bit more information about the FEA and what to expect today. So, we are all here because we believe that no child's educational success should be determined by their socioeconomic background. And the Fair Education Alliance is powered by 246 member organizations. Our members represent the voices of young people, delivery organizations, businesses, schools and universities, unions, and research institutions. In terms of size, the FEA members employ nearly 70,000 individuals, which I think is such a huge asset and something that we should be taking into account today. And our delivery members are working across every single region in England. So in each region in England, we have at least 66% of our members working, which is phenomenal. It reaches its highest in London and the Southeast, but we have a great presence nationally, and excited to share more about how our tools will help this to scale. Something I find even more interesting is that 25% of our members, just of the delivery organizations, are younger than the impact goals, so less than a decade old. And thank you, Rachel Tate, for that analysis. I think that that is an indication of course, the severity of the issues that we're addressing, but also the appetite of individuals to address these challenges and the need for continued innovation and scale. And so we are so delighted that for the first time, we have merged our summit with our innovation booster to ensure that we are taking a collective approach to how we can get to the areas of greatest need and address the structural issues that are impeding our progress. So who's in the room today? We have 3 different colors on your name badges. Red is for FEA members, blue is for sector stakeholders, and gold is for early stage innovators. I've seen you all look down, so hopefully that matches. Now you know who you are. But for the rest of the day, make sure you know who everyone else is. So that's a great way to continue those conversations between each other, of course, but also amongst the different types of sector stakeholders, innovators, and members who are here. In lanyards, you have the FEA staff in a gray lanyard, shall you need anything across the day, and you have our speakers in red lanyards. So, I'm going to share a bit more about the FEA's history and where we're going. On our history, we have 5 impact goals that you can see in the report card, and Janine will be sharing, that were set up by over 1,000 stakeholders in 2012. So it was a phenomenal piece of consultation across all different sectors to hear the voices about what we believed were the biggest areas to narrow the gap. So we're looking at narrowing the gap in literacy and numeracy in primary school, in GCSE attainment at secondary school, in resilience, well-being, and social-emotional skills, and then in post-16 destinations, both in terms of employment and also in terms of university admissions and graduation. The FEA is guided by 4 collective priorities that we want to see us all working on to address these issues and close the gaps. We want to see a rounded education that develops skills and well-being equally alongside academic attainment. We want to see parents and carers engaged so that education goes beyond the school gates. We want to see teachers and leaders incentivized and rewarded to get into and to thrive in the areas of greatest need. And we want to support post-16 options to join up so that young people aren't pigeonholed into what they want to pursue after school. And it's these collective priorities that drive our collective work. But you'd never believe it from today. We're a small backbone organization. There's just 11 of us. And so we have 4 outcomes across the work that we do as a secretariat that drive what we want to see. And you can check all of this out in our annual report. The first is that we want to have a unified message so that we don't have that cacophony of voices, but really that strong, powerful, collective voice to influence the public and policy. We want to have increased connections and coordination, so we have reduced duplication and more collaboration leading to impact. We want to have diverse leadership, particularly with young people at the helm. And we want to scale systemically, nurturing bold innovations and getting proven initiatives to the areas of greatest need. So let's look at how we've done this over the past year. Really briefly, for unified message, huge success in terms of influencing government about where we should be targeting our support and how we should be investing more in terms of education. In our increased connections, we're thrilled that we've had over 270 of you take part in collective action projects, ranging from parental engagement through to literacy advocacy, to take action together, and thrilled to share more today about our digital tools, especially the ecosystem map that we launched last month. In terms of diverse leadership, we launched our youth engagement strategy, putting young people at the heart and at the helm of what we do. And as you've heard from Oghale, we've had young people speak at every FEA event and taking charge in consultations with Ofsted at the DFE number 10. And finally, with scaling systemically, we have our 16 award winners that we supported over the past year who have increased their growth by 73% and worked with over 500,000 people during that year. So congratulations to all of you for making the FEA's work so impactful. That's my take on it, but I'm really thrilled that we get to hear from some of our members right now. So, and we're gonna have a little pop-up. So I would love to start off and hear from Nick. So Nick, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, that's loud. Thanks, Gina. I'm Nick Bent. I'm the co-founder and chief executive of the Tutor Trust, education charity in the north of England. I also have the privilege of being co-chair of the FEA Tuition Advocacy Group, along with Susanna Hardiman from Action Tutoring, and we've had a busy year. Our work has been focused on the National Tutoring Programme, trying to make sure government keeps the National Tutoring Programme faithful to its original principles around high-quality tutoring, around a focus on disadvantaged kids, and on the programme being evidence-based. And we've organised a series of joint letters to successive ministers at the DFE. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of political change at the DFE, as you may have spotted. We organised a ministerial meeting in January, which helped bring some really positive reforms to the National Tutoring Programme. And as some of you will have heard, last year the government appointed a company called Randstad to run the National Tutoring Programme. They were a total disaster, really awful. And this year, thanks to the work of our advocacy group, we got them sacked. So this sort of collaborative action really works. Thank you very much. Who's next?
Great. Thank you so much. The round of applause for We Got Them Sacked is, I think, going to go down in Twitter history today. Hashtag Parrot for all. So thanks, Nick. We will now go to Jarrell.
How do I follow that? So good morning, everybody. My name is Jarrell Jackson. People call me, the name is Jay. I'm the Chief Changemaker / CEO at Powered by Oghale, an organization that I actually founded 10 years ago as a remit to support children and young people to reach their full potential through arts, culture, media, sport, enterprise. So we use the term I can, you can, we can. So in regards to my relationship, I would prefer to say it's a relationship that I have with the FEA. It's about really developing as well as addressing racial inequality, especially when we talk about do the schools represent or reflect our communities which we serve and which we work in, but also how do we have this wider conversation around developing access. So access where we look at the concept around inclusion, inequality, as well as really looking at that income model that really supports innovation. So my continued relationship with FEA has really supported on a piece of work where I was at the Festival of Education, which we led an amazing experience of stakeholders, school leaders, partners to come together to really talk about some of these local issues, to start to create the call to action and the movement that gets some of these issues at the forefront. It was about developing a safe space to really have the open conversation. And through that piece of work, we have got a group which is actually called Addressing Racial Inequality in Education that has two-tiered approach between looking at the model of the leadership responsibilities in education and the systems, but also important part around where young people see the future of their education and where they want people to see and look and sound and feel like it's for them. So without the work of the FEA, this conversation isn't just the beginning, but we're creating the action for a movement of change. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jay. Now over to Emma.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Emma Hooper, and I am the Acting Programme Director for Action Tutoring. We have been using that fantastic ecosystem map to help us with our mission. So our mission is to sort of support disadvantaged young people in education mass nationwide, and we do that in partnership with schools. And what we've been doing is kind of trying to expand our reach into new areas, but also deepen our reach in where we currently work. So we currently work in 9 cities, and we've been sort of using that map to sort of look at new schools, but also where other Fair Education Alliance members already work. And the idea is that we want to use that to sort of collaborate and work together and share ideas about, how can we expand into those areas where actually at the moment, people aren't reaching, sort of outside interventions aren't getting to. We found it extremely helpful, and we kind of hope to sort of use it in collaboration with many people, hopefully in this room, to really sort of achieve our mission and kind of get to those areas and help those disadvantaged young people in those areas that at the moment no one is getting to. Hopefully I'll speak to some of you later today, and I hope that after today you look at that map and also use it to collaborate with other Fair Education Alliance members. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Emma. We will go to Catherine.
Hello, good morning. My name is Catherine Vincent. I'm a teacher and head teacher by background, and until recently I was head of a school in Tower Hamlets, East London, obviously one of the most disadvantaged parts of London and the UK. I'm now director for Reconnect London. We have as our mission to improve outcomes for disadvantaged learners by increasing collaboration between schools and across the London school system. So we're trying to get more schools to work together more effectively so that we can pool our collective expertise. We've benefited from working with the FEA in 2 major ways this year. The first is that I was able to join the Youth Engagement Working Group. What an incredible strand of work. If you haven't engaged with that, I would really encourage you to do so. It was genuinely eye-opening, and it's made me rethink the power of youth engagement and how we can really capitalise on that. That was really fantastic for us as an organisation. In addition, we held a conference in June this year where we launched our report, London Learners, London Lives, which examines the impact of disadvantage on young Londoners. And we benefited from Becca and her team at the FEA, who helped us to include youth voice as part of that conference. We surveyed young people in advance and asked them what one thing could their schools do to improve their lives right now. And we were able to share that with delegates at the conference, which really added something significant to the event. So I'm delighted to have had the chance to work with the FEA on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Great. We'll go to Sinead next from Lighthouse.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Sinead Cicerone. I'm from Lighthouse, and at Lighthouse we believe that young people in care have the right to the same opportunities as everyone else, at home, at school, and in their communities. Last year, I was lucky enough to be one of the FEA's award winners on their Entrepreneurship Award. So I was supported in creating a development programme for staff who work in children's homes to enable those staff to best support those young people that they work with to thrive and to go on to access those opportunities. So with the award, there was the great benefit of the financial support that we got, but also the award is so much more than just funding. So I was lucky enough to get regular one-to-one support from the incredible Tish at the FEA. We had regular workshops, so as part of a cohort, I was with other award winners who were also working on initiatives, some of whom I'm sure are here today. So really having that peer support and the peer learning opportunities was amazing. And on top of that, got access to this incredible group of people in this room and beyond. So that FEA network support that came with the award meant that where there were specific areas where I needed support, they were able to put me in touch with someone who had that expertise, who had that knowledge, so that the initiative that I was working on could be so much more than it could have been if I was just doing that alone. So I was really grateful to have that support.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sinead. And finally, we'll come to Aisha.
Hi, I'm Aisha. I'm currently leading Get Further as Interim Chief Exec. Get Further, we mainly provide tutoring to young people in further education who haven't yet achieved that good pass in their maths and English GCSEs. And we focus there because those are massive gateway qualifications. So Get Further's an FEA Scaling Award winner, and we are very, very happy to have had that support over the last few years. When Get Further won the Scaling Award, we were tutoring around 150 students and with a team of about 3 people. Last year, we reached 1,700 students, and our team grew to some 16 members. And the FEA have been instrumental as we've gone through that journey. So I think the Scaling Award was over 2 years, so you can imagine the scale of growth that we've gone through in the last 2 years. And the FEA, they've helped us with strategy through that, with fundraising, with how we think about our program. As our team has grown, they've really helped us to upskill that team. So we've had an entirely new executive team this year. We've also expanded our senior leadership, and we've had some really good leadership and line management training with the FEA. Simon in the FEA has been super helpful to me this year, giving me lots of personalized support, mentoring, coaching around stepping into the interim chief exec position, and particularly in seeing us through this growth spike this year as well. And so it's been really helpful. We've also managed to join things like what Nick was talking about, the Tutoring Action Group. We've been part of that collective action, trying to make sure that the profile of tutoring is as high as possible across the country, and that the work that we're doing is both awesome and recognized. So it's been really helpful to be part of this much bigger group and to be a Scaling Award winner as well.
Thank you, Aisha. Fantastic. Well, massive congratulations. And those are only some stories. We know that there are all the personal stories for each and every one of you and want to hear them today. So just briefly on our next year then, building off of those foundations that you've just heard, we think right now is the absolute moment to be influencing. You might have heard education is at the lowest on the public's agenda that it has been since the early 90s. And so this is a critical moment for us to get together, use our collective voice, and have that joint manifesto building off of our report card so that we can get what we need in the next government. The second area are digital tools, of course. How do we deepen and embed that? So please do go to the workshops today about that this afternoon if you're interested in getting hands-on advice. And Daniel's on hand today. Daniel, give a wave up here if you want to get any one-to-one support as well. Youth engagement. I'm going to steal a line from our phenomenal trustee, Zulum, who we will hear from next. We are going to have a youth quake. And this is down to 2 things. It's about empowering and equipping young people to lead within our own organizations and seeding the space for them to do this. And it's also about how young people are influencing national policy. So we're taking our youth engagement to the next level and really excited to have you participate in that with us. And finally, scaling impact. Our 2 awards, Innovation and Scale, are open right now. So we're excited for you to attend the booster workshops today, get that guidance and advice to improve your organization's impact and sustainability and take it to the next level. So how's today going to work? We have the 2 strands, our system change strand and our booster strand. Our system change strand is all happening in here. And so for those FEA members who have one person from your team who's here today, please stay in here and take part in all the sessions on poverty, place, and power, which will ultimately lead us to influencing and then developing our collective action plan going forward. But if you have more than one member of staff, or you're an early stage entrepreneur and you're keen to get practical support, we have got so many amazing workshops led by an incredible variety of FEA members and supporters for you to take part in. And so please do select, make the most of it, and you can also, you've signed up for your one-to-ones, have your one-to-ones. All of the booster sessions are happening outside of this room in other areas in Battersea Arts Center, and there are volunteers outside who can help direct you. So we've got the one-to-one clinics and one of the workshops happening downstairs on the ground floor towards the back of the building, and we have 2 of the other workshops happening upstairs. You can use the key, color-coded key on the agenda to be able to see which workshops are for you, whether that's gray, open to anybody, pink, which is targeted for early stage innovators, or teal for scaling organizations. And how are you going to find that agenda, you might be asking? Well, it's on your name badge. So if you look at your name badge, I know there's so many surprises on there. If you look at your name badge, there is a QR code. So you can scan that QR code. That will take you to the Summit Resources page. On that page, you've got the report card, you've got the attendee list if you want to just make sure you know who everybody is. You have got the agenda for today, and so you can pull that up and be accessing everything throughout the day. So that is it from me. I want to wish you an incredible summit. We'll be seeing everyone, regardless of the journey that you take today at our summit. We'll be seeing everyone back in here just after 4 o'clock to be reconvening and planning what are we going to do as a result, because it's not just about talk, this is about action together. So we look forward to that last hour to collectively plan our next steps, and then I'm wearing my dancing shoes, so I'm really excited for the networking reception and to be in this space from 5 to 7 and get that chance to build those connections even further. So thank you everyone for being here. Our next session is going to start at 10:45. So for those who are staying, please grab your stuff, move forward, come grab a table. For those to the booster sessions, have a great time. I'll send you on your way.